My folks decided to build a cabin in Amador to go to on the weekend. Well, it turned out to be a 2-bedroom, 2-bath, 2-car garage cabin. My maternal grandfather was an architect and designed both the homes as well as the large Belmont addition. My dad cleared the land and built the cabin mainly himself, but my mom pushed a lot of wheelbarrows and helped a lot, as did one of my boyfriends and a few subcontractors. If that was their idea of a relaxing weekend, I thoroughly disagree. I think it caused way too much stress, but Dad loved to be active and work with his hands and body. Mom passed away in 1973 after the cabin was built. Dad was greatly blessed in meeting Carolyn, and they enjoyed the house in Amador very much. 22 years ago, Dad got tired of chopping 2 cords of wood every winter, so they moved to Jackson and have enjoyed the community and their friends. Dad continued his piano and organ playing and entertained many at the Senior Center and the Electric Organ Club. I am so glad Dad had the love of Carolyn for 37 years. They made a good team and looked out after each other. Our family has been greatly blessed by her presence, and we love her. Dad lived a full 95 years, was very active for all of the last couple, loved his music, had companionship, owned his own homes, and in short, had things pretty good. May we all be blessed with the goodness of God. With love for all my family, Catherine King. And we'll place this up. Catherine put this book together. This is Charlie in his younger days. Very handsome man. This is S.Y. Most in attendance today know Dad in his late years, so I thought I would tell of a few earlier remembrances. Dad had a fondness for dogs. We had several when I grew up, but Pierre was the longest living member of our family, living to be 15 years old. Dad thought it would be good to teach Pierre a few tricks. The most unusual one was teaching him to pray. He would place Pierre's front paws up on a kitchen chair and then tuck his head down between his legs while feeding him a treat from under the seat of the chair. It didn't take long to teach this trick, and I'm sure we had the only dog in Belmont that knew how to pray. Pierre's take on the prayer thing was probably to pray that the treat was worth the effort. And then there was a German Shepherd that was about 2 years old that I brought home, that I bought from a breeder in Pennsylvania while working at a girls' camp in the Blue Ridge Mountains. The breeder didn't bother to tell me that he rescued Shotzi from a man who had beaten her, and she was afraid of men. When Shotzi arrived in California, Dad tried so hard to make friends with Shotzi by tempting her with all kinds of meat, but she wouldn't be tempted. He had a hard time accepting the fact that he couldn't make friends with his dog. And then there was the day Mom came home and found Pierre and Shotzi had had a good old time tearing up Pierre's bed. And we have another picture of this that will go on the table. Dad's gardening days went back as far as I can remember. We had lots of fruit trees that provided canned fruit for the winter, vegetables in their season, and even some flowers and lawn. Dad loved his garden, and it was a source of pride for him. Dad learned to play the piano from his mother. He was a natural and played by ear. I'm afraid my piano lessons didn't last past age 12 when they ended one Sunday morning when I was practicing Mendelssohn. Dad, having a lazy morning in bed, decided I didn't have much talent. Unlike Dad, I couldn't play by ear and struggled just to read music. Dad just didn't understand that it was possible not to have the same talent he had. I switched to guitar and he left me alone. Dad went on entertaining friends and groups with his great piano playing, and we in the exercise class can attest to that. He always teased us with a few notes there at the beginning. In the 1950s, he came by a songbook, mostly music from the 40s. It only had one line of notes, but this didn't slow Dad down. He improvised with full chords as if they'd been included in the book. I think it pleased him to produce the cassettes that were used as a fundraiser for the Jackson Senior Center. To help hone his selling skills, he joined Toastmasters. He excelled at speaking, and in a 12-month period, he brought the Club Cup home 11 out of 12 speeches given during the year. Having been a sounding board for his speeches, his subjects were well-researched, interesting, and very well delivered. These talks had to be given without notes, and sometimes the members had to do impromptu speeches, which he excelled at as well. Having succeeded at the sales game, my cousin David invited Dad to come back into the scaffolding business as a partner, but he was a hands-on partner right out with the men putting scaffolding up in San Francisco. Well, after deciding he was getting too old to climb scaffolding and ending up hanging upside down from the scaffold one day, he went to work for Most McKesson and retired from there. When it came to cooking, Dad was the won the awards in our family, hands down. Cooking was a chore to Mom, but Dad loved it. Another talent he learned from his mother. His specialties were soups, German pastry at Christmas, and barbecues. Dad led a full life and enjoyed many passions. He's probably found a dog on the other side of Rainbow Bridge as a buddy and is teaching it to pray. Thanks for taking care of your family, Dad, and giving us a good lifestyle. Rest in peace, Dad. And son. Her son Bill and her daughter Gail. This is from Bill. When I sit to write a brief eulogy to Charlie, despite the solemnity of the occasion, I cannot help but have a smile on my face. I don't think I ever met a kinder, gentler, more considerate, but most importantly, more optimistic man. Charlie found joy in life, and while he was always informed and extremely organized, he never let the bad things interfere with that. When he and Mother married now so many years ago, we all knew that she was in good hands. We will all miss him terribly, of course, but I take much solace in the knowledge that he lived such a long and almost entirely healthy life, full of joy and friendship, and left us with so many wonderful memories. I much enjoyed getting him to reminisce about his salad days in Wisconsin when he toured the North playing in a band. Something I learned about him by happenstance is Charlie never talked about himself unless you were pretty persistent with your inquiries. Charlie was a man of many parts who lived in many capacities and in many places, but who I am convinced was always the same wonderful, optimistic, truly happy person. We can all take a great lesson from the way he chose to live his life. And I think all of us here in this room can testify to that. And she says, as I sit here to write this, I find myself thinking back to when Charlie and my mom first got married. I was home from college and learning to adjust to both having to work full-time, and a new person in my mother's life was interesting to say the least. But Charlie made it all so easy. He was fun and personable, and he was always ready to play something wonderful on his piano. In addition, he was a wonderful cook and introduced me to his wonderful canned beef and his lentil soups. He also managed to make split pea and ham soup delicious, and definitely not the conglomeration some of us remember from our home ec days. He was also a big enough person to admit when he had made a mistake. The prime example being when I brought home a mixed breed puppy named Ginger, and after the first few days of her chewing up the legs of the kitchen table and the kitchen windowsill, he made it very clear that he did not want this dog in the house. I took Ginger to the SPCA, but was very distraught, as was my mother. But he relented the next day and said if she was still at the shelter, we could bring her home. I called the shelter, and she was still there, so my mother and I brought her home, and making a long story short, Ginger turned out to be Charlie's best friend. He would take her over at the park close to my mom's townhouse and throw a tennis ball for her, and he taught her how to sit up. She accompanied him to Amador Pines when he moved to his home there before my mother retired from work, and she was his constant companion up there. They were so close, he even cooked an extra waffle or eggs at breakfast so that Ginger could have hers. He was a wonderful cribbage player, even if he did seem to win more than his fair share of games. I will also remember all the hours we spent playing the Mountain Misery card game and putting puzzles together. I also always looked forward to the wonderful fresh vegetables from the garden he had every year. He seemed to be able to accomplish whatever he set his mind to, and was a great role model for me. There was so much that Charlie did and accomplished in his life, and yet not enough words to explain it all adequately. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity to get to know him and to have him in my life. He will be missed. And I think this has been a wonderful tribute from all four of these children.